Most of the people you call friends are not loyal to you. They're loyal to the version of you that benefits them. That's not an opinion. That's not negativity. That's psychology. Think about it for a second. If you stopped replying first, if you stopped helping, if you stopped listening to their problems, if you stopped being available, how many friendships would quietly disappear? Nobody tells you this growing up. They teach you friendship is about memories, laughter, and history, but your brain has been lying to you about friendship because the truth is uncomfortable. Here's a harsh truth people don't want to hear. Friendship is not built on love. It's built on emotional exchange. And the moment the exchange feels unequal, your value in that relationship drops. That's why some friends vanish when you struggle. That's why some friends get weird when you succeed. That's why some friends only show up when they need something. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good, because discomfort is the price of awareness. Let me ask you a question that hits the ego. Have you ever called someone your friend, but deep down you knew they wouldn't show up when it really mattered? Your brain already knows the answer, you've just been ignoring it. Stay with me, because once you see the dark psychology behind friendship, you'll never waste emotional energy the same way again. Psychologists call this social exchange theory, and once you understand it, you'll see why your friendships changed. Even when you didn't, your relationships, your confidence, even your sense of belonging are influenced by this one psychological pattern. Every relationship runs on an invisible scale. People subconsciously ask, what do I gain emotionally? What does this person make me feel? Do I feel superior, equal, or threatened? The brain doesn't care about fairness, it cares about efficiency. If a friendship feels draining, boring, or threatening to someone's self-image, their brain starts creating distance silently. That's why ghosting exists. That's why excuses replace honesty. That's why I've been busy often means you're no longer a priority. And here's the painful part. Most people don't leave friendships suddenly. They detach mentally first. They reply slower, they share less, they invest emotionally somewhere else. By the time you notice, they're already gone. This is why understanding the psychology matters, because without awareness, you blame yourself, you over-explain, you chase, you lower your standards, and that's where people lose their self-respect. But here's where it gets even worse. Most people stop at blaming others. And that's the biggest mistake, because the dark truth is not just about them. It's about why you tolerate it. People don't drift away because they're busy. They drift away because you stopped being useful to their emotional needs. And even worse, some friends don't want you to grow because your growth threatens the role they play in your life. Your brain wants connection so badly that it will ignore disrespect just to avoid loneliness. That's why you stayed friends with people who dismissed your goals, made jokes at your expense, only contacted you when they needed something. Your brain chose familiarity over self-respect. And it does this all the time. Some friendships only survive when you stay small. And this next part explains why your life hasn't changed yet. This happens because your brain is wired for belonging, not truth. Thousands of years ago, being rejected meant death. So your brain treats social rejection as danger. That's why. You overshare to feel close. You tolerate disrespect to stay connected. You fear cutting people off even when they drain you. Your mind thinks, if I lose them, I lose safety. But the reality is, some connections are cages, not homes. Another dark psychological principle at play is status regulation. Friends subconsciously compare who's improving, who's falling behind, who's gaining confidence. When your status rises, it creates imbalance. And instead of rising with you, many people try to pull you back emotionally. They call it humor. They call it keeping you humble. They call it being real. But psychology calls it threat response. And then there's vulnerability. You were told vulnerability creates closeness, but dark psychology says unfiltered. Vulnerability creates leverage. The more someone knows your fears, the more power they have, even unintentionally. That's why calm, grounded people share slowly. Not because they're cold, because they're conscious. If that hit you, good, it means you needed it. Here's the truth you've been avoiding. Not everyone who laughs with you wants the best for you. If you want to break this cycle, start with emotion. Boundaries, stop over-explaining, stop proving your worth, stop chasing energy. that isn't returned. Here's the mental trick that actually works. Observe people's behavior when you stop giving. Not when you start giving, when you stop. Reduce availability slightly, share less, say no without explanation. The people who respect you will adjust. The people who are using you will disappear. And that's not loss, that's clarity. Real friendship is quiet, it doesn't compete. It doesn't guilt trip, it doesn't drain. You don't need many friends, you need aligned ones. Because once you understand the dark psychology of friendship, you stop being desperate for connection and start attracting respect.